Welcome to I Plan for Marriage, the podcast, the space where love meets preparation. I'm Martha Brown, a marriage planner and chaplain.
And I'm Vivian Vi Baldwin of Designs by Lady Vi, Martha's co-host. I'm a wedding planner and designer and educator. Together, we'll guide you through the two most important journeys, building a strong foundation for your marriage and navigating the ins and outs of wedding planning.
We'll share the conversations you should have before saying I do and the details that matter when planning the celebration of your love.
Whether you're engaged, newlywed, or dreaming about your big day, we're here to give you the insight, encouragement, and a touch of inspiration. Let's get started.
I'm so excited to be here on today, welcoming my guest, Laquita Corman. Laquita Corman is a clinical director of Great Place to Start Behavioral Health Services. Laquita, welcome to I Plan for Marriage, the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Mm-hmm. And we're right here at the end of engagement season. Normally, my co-host, Vivian, would be with me on today, and she would be welcoming you as well. But she is busy now that we're at the end of engagement season, planning those marriages. With that in mind, tell us a little bit more about your services and what you have to offer to couples.
Well, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been doing the licensed clinical social worker part for probably over 10, 15 years now. Yes. And prior to that, doing social work out in the secular world beyond therapy. But right now, I'm owner of Great Place to Start Behavioral Health Services. We have over 15 clinicians currently. We are offering individual, group, couples, family. We really pride ourselves in providing evidence-based therapy. So we do specialized therapy such as trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, and we do ADHD. We specialize in that because that's huge. Our neuro folks really need it. And we also offer CPT, which is like a cognitive processing therapy. A lot of our veterans use that, but it's also for trauma, for those experiencing PTSD. The TFCBT is more for our youth. And we also do our generalized therapy for anxiety, depression. We cover all bases, even our more diverse mood disorders. We try to make sure that we cover those, and DBT usually helps out with a lot of that. We do groups. We do anger management. We really enjoy just serving the community, and we take all insurances, Medicaid to private insurances, and we enjoy what we do.
Okay. And I noticed you said we. So who is the we? Share a little bit more about what that makeup is.
Well, my husband and I, we both do it together. Anthony Corman, we work together. We partner together, so we're together a lot. We do enjoy it because many people are like, how can you work with your husband? I love working with my husband. And so we've been together for 35 years. And yeah, so 35 years this October will be for us. And we have 5 beautiful children. And we have plus kids as well that because we're also foster parents, and we've been fostering over 20 years as well. And we also have a nonprofit trauma wellness center that we've started to fill in the gaps because we're currently working on our foster parent license so that we'll be a child placement agency. And the Trauma Wellness Center, the nonprofit piece, will help to provide more services to fill in the gaps. So we don't want to just place children. We want to provide support for them as well and their biological parents too. So those who usually don't get that support while their children are in care, we want to make sure that we provide those services for them and give them support along the way, because the goal is reunification. North Carolina has over 12,000 children in care, and we want to get those children back home.
Sounds like, Laquita, you and Anthony are doing a lot. I mean, both a business and a nonprofit.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. So I imagine in 35 years, there have been times where there has been conflicts. And we know that conflicts are inevitable in a relationship because you have two people coming together from different lived experiences. As a therapist, what is the most common conflict that you have witnessed, or you have couples coming to you have brought to your attention to receive services and intervention?
Well, the biggest one is it's your fault. Yes, that's the biggest one. It's your fault. I had nothing to do with it. You need to fix you. Yeah, it's not me. But I usually tell them, if you're pointing that finger, of course, there's several pointing back at you, right? So, but usually it's difficult in relationships, and I know we usually say communication, finances, you don't like my family and I don't like your family either. Yeah. you know, that whole in-law battle. But usually we don't see ourselves. So we need for our partner to, fix themselves. And so it's hard to see us in that, because sometimes we're usually shut down because we're absorbed in what works for us. And usually that creates the conflict, because what we're doing worked for us prior to we got married. Before we said I do, what was working for me worked. But now I need to be able to do it with somebody else. So that whole thing's starts to conflict. But of course, like I said, those same old topics, finances, siblings. Now we're getting more wide range because we have families moving in together, which also creates even more conflict. Yeah, because you can't be a referee forever.
So you're saying like 2 generational households?
Yes, we're starting to see that a lot more. We have families coming in together, or I have my sister and her husband are living with us as well, or we staying with grandma, as a couple. So we're starting to see a whole mixture of families, and of course, even the blended family issues that we come across as well.
How do you begin to unravel that if parties are coming in thinking that it's your fault, and there's that expectation that the other person is going to change? What is some of the first things you do in that initial and early part of your therapeutic intervention?
When we do the assessment prior, if we see that there's a lot of individual issues that need to be unraveled before a person can see beyond themselves, we actually ask that they do individualized therapy. Both of you need your own therapist before you see a therapist for marriage counseling. So if I saw you for individual therapy, I would not be the marriage counselor for either of you, not as a couple. But I'll have them see individual therapists for themselves to get to the root of what's going on with them. What am I needing? Because you got to know what your needs are first. What am I needing? What are the things that have impact that need? Because there's a lot of different issues that could have impacted that need prior to us getting here and prior to us saying I do. And then once we get to I do, there's a lot of things that become undone. So if we can deal with the individualism first, then we can get to the couple.
Well, that sounds like a proactive step that someone
Mhm.
who is engaged or dating needs to embark on, doing individual therapy, being intentional about that so that they have longevity in their relationship. So that's what I'm hearing you say about having that individual conversation. In other words, knowing who you are
That's
before you
right.
can know who we are. You have to know who you are. Okay, great,
Yeah,
great.
right.
So for those couples or individuals who are um, therapy adverse, right? For a couple who's therapy adverse, what are the other options that that couple may have to assist them in building a healthy and sustainable relationship?
Well, definitely communication classes. I believe if you can learn how to communicate and understand yourself more, and be able to really allow your partner to understand how am I feeling and what am I feeling, and why do I, of course, as you say, fight this way. So if you understand that, the communication, more skill based courses will definitely help. And if you don't want to do therapy, and a lot of people are like, I'm not going to therapy, and first of all, and I just got to say this, because people do get anti-therapy. Yeah, I'm not doing that. You can go, but I'm not going. But I view therapy just like if you're saying if somebody offer you a degree for a couple of $100, because we're in the short end of things if we're talking about maybe 10 sessions. So if somebody says I offer you therapy for maybe $1,000, and a university costs you some people pay hundred thousands of dollars right, to go to a university. Therapy is just like a university. It's a university unto yourself, is what I say. It's a higher learning about you. When people say I don't want to go to therapy, it's like I don't want to know about myself. I don't want to understand myself. And therapy is just that. It's just more of a university unto yourself. It's a higher learning to allow you to understand, who you are, what has impacted me, what has caused change, what has derailed, my course. Because sometimes we can get to where we need to be, but do we have to take all the bridges and, get on the track and jump ditches? And do we have to do all that to get there? What can we take out of that? So that we can get there and get there a lot faster. So there's different things. Some people see their pastor. Pastoral counseling is fine because they don't see that as therapy, but the consultation is great. There's conferences, there's retreat. My husband and I, that was we built them retreats, yearly. That helped us and get you to thinking. It gets you to really try some new things. Also, they have some of them have conferences or classes for the male and then female. They kind of split us up at times, and you get to talk about real things. So women, we talk about things differently than what men do. Some things bother us that don't bother our male or our partner or significant other. That it doesn't bother them. But there's different ways that you can also receive some help without going to therapy necessarily.
Okay, great. Well, it's good to know that there are options, and in some instances, there may be people who try those options and then determine that they go to therapy. I think about when it comes to my physical health. Oftentimes, before I go to my physician, I may try a number of home remedies or over the counter or just some alternatives. And
That's
then
right.
it gets to a certain point, and then I realize, okay, I'm gonna need some expert
Mhm.
assistance. And I'm glad to know that there are options out there because, again, conflict is going to occur. And if a couple doesn't have something in place, they will default to who? Family and friends.
That's
And
right.
what have you, in your years of service and even personally, how does that work for couples when they default to family and friends?
Not too well. Yes, because you get other people's opinions and other people's lived experience that may not be suitable for the two of you. Because we're all different people and you're trying to blend the two of you, but when we add other opinions, now we're trying to blend 4 or 5 of us. So the problem gets bigger. That's what I say. If you add people into your marriage, the problem just got bigger. If this isn't a planned, solution-focused remedy that both of you agreed upon. So unless your partner said, hey, let's go call Susan, and Susan is gonna be we're willing to listen to Susan together and and do this together. That just doesn't happen. Usually, he's going to talk to Jacob and she going to talk to Susan, or and they're not together. They just added 2 other people and made the problem bigger. Yeah, so there's usually not a solution that I hear that come out of that.
Yeah, I imagine people stay team groom or team bride throughout the relationship.
That's right.
They're gonna go for one or the other and support them to the end.
Yes. And then when it's time for forgiveness, they don't forgive. You don't let them in, and now they don't forgive. They're holding him to the fire, and you done release them, and they can't move forward. So, no, it's not good to add the extra people in.
Thank you for that. So, in speaking of extra people, and you said earlier and mentioned that there are people living in multi-generational spaces. And we did have a conversation on one of our previous episodes with a genealogist. And that person spoke about the importance of taking time to learn your partner's family, understand the culture, understand some of the ways in which some of their values, understanding the relationships, how they maybe make decisions, how they address conflict. In a couple, if a partner begins to move in that direction, is there a particular topics, particular questions that they should ask, or maybe if they didn't directly ask, are there particular things that they should be looking for or be aware of as they interact with their partner's family?
Well, you definitely want to. I think the biggest thing that I try to work with an individual, and also when they become the couple, when we're dealing with 2 different worlds trying to come together, I always ask them, one of the homework assignments is, what was important to you in your family? What did you enjoy doing in your family that you saw that your mother did, or father, or your parents did? Because sometimes some of us come from single parent homes sometimes, but there's still some strengths in that. What did I see them do? What did I enjoy? What did I like about that? But there's the other flip side of, what are some things that I just don't care to reproduce anymore? I don't want to do that anymore. This is not what I'm gonna do. If they can both look at that, what are some things that I enjoy that I want to keep doing? I want to pass this on to my children. I want them to do this or respond in these matters. I want this to happen. And then there's things that you just don't want to see happen again, and they share that. And sometimes they're already doing it, and he may not desire it. So he might like, no, that's not what we did. That's not how we did things in my home. So it's very important to find that out. What is that? And one of the main things that we do, because when we talk about how we communicate, how we do things in our culture, but our culture can be derailed in some ways, because one of the things I was asked, what are your biggest traumas? What are your traumas? Because I can guarantee you, if you had trauma in your life, you're doing business with it. And I tell people, trauma happens and it's back here, because people like, I done moved on from that. It's back here, but you're doing business with it. You're communicating with it, and you just don't realize it. We're doing business with it every day, and we don't know that the reason why I respond in this manner is because of what happened to me or what I saw happen. So that's why I respond to you this, and that's why I get defensive when you say certain things. Because I don't like it, and I was in some domestic violence. And I just don't like it when you call my name the way you call my name. No, don't do that. So you're doing business with it in your relationship, but don't recognize it. So your culture's been derailed in some ways. You get hijacked along the way, and you start to relate with your spouse, relate with other people. We do relationships daily with it. So I will find out, what is there any traumas you have? Anything's happened in your life that you still remember or still bothers you? And it can go the other way around, because there's some great things that happen in our lives that we want to make sure that we bring into our relationships as well. But those are some big things that I will find out. If you find out about a person's trauma, because even when I do couples, I do a trauma piece, and you'll be surprised that she told me about that something happened with one of her cousins, but when we do trauma, we go into details. And when they share the details, they usually go, oh, I didn't know it was like that. So that's why you don't like it when I grab your shoulder like that? Exactly. That's why, and she's like, well, I didn't realize, and going through the details, why I respond to you when you do that, although you're not meaning it to be aggressive in any way. So a lot of things can come out of it. So we do details, even down to colors, smells. We do it all when we do the trauma couples therapy. We do it all because even when situations where people have been sexually assaulted, there's things that happen. One young lady, the guy that did it wore blue jeans and a white t-shirt. And she was trying to figure out why she never liked her husband wear jeans, So it's very vital if there's some trauma that you work that out and work through it together, you get better results and able to move forward.
Wow. I was intrigued by when you said you're doing business with it. And what is the, catalyst, or is there something that occurs that raises that awareness, that brings the person to the point of wanting to address it? I mean, are there people who just go through life and they never realize that they're doing business, and that they just accept that that's who they are and they just never change?
Yes, there are people who do that, and it's like how you said, that's who they are, because they usually use the term is, that's just me. That's just me. You can't accept me. You can't, and not realizing that, they've been hijacked, basically. The trauma has changed, how you do business. And now that's just the way you do business. That's the way you do life. So you do see that a lot where people don't. Sometimes the symptoms get high and they go, okay, we need to go to therapy. There's something going on. And now she act like she doesn't want me to touch her. So, but once we break down and go through the trauma pieces, a lot of things arises. You see a lot of significant ways that have been disrupted just by the trauma pieces, just by those small details that you never pay attention to. It's just it just hijack your relationships very easily. But if you can get to the root of those, you see people come around different. You build plans together. You understand their triggers. Sweetheart, I will not call your name like that again. You don't ever have to worry about me calling your name. After I heard the details of what happened to you, I now understand it better. I understand it. I've had husbands cry, and because they didn't realize how significant the trauma was. Because he was like, I feel I want to go and get this guy and it's been years. And he said, I feel like that I didn't protect you. But he wasn't there. But the protection happens now. It happens now. And I tell people it's one of my biggest saying is it's your response that makes the difference in everything you do in life. It's how you choose to respond now. And in all relationships, your future is right now. It's how you're responding in that moment to your spouse. What are you saying? Because you're creating what you're wanting. You're creating how your needs get met, in your response, to your spouse. So it's very important how we communicate with them, how we show up and respect them. I tell people, they're like, he needs to love me. He needs to love me. If he's not in love with me, and there's a problem, he did. He was learning to love you before, even during the engagement, when you were dating, when he was, trying to get with you, he was working to fall in love with you. But I tell people we say there's 3 main keys, but 2, if you have those 2 keys, the other things are usually workable, and that's respect and commitment. If you have those 2, the other things will develop. In engagement, the reason why these things work is because he set out to show you respect. He don't say, get in the car yourself, or buy your own dinner. He's opening the door for you, showing you respect. Not calling you out your name, talking to you respectfully, not raising his voice at you. Even you can say something out of the way, they still kind of like low key. I'm gonna show you respect, right? So if you keep the respect, you got a lot of things to work from. It's when we start calling each other out of our names, out of their names. When we shut people down, we don't want to hear you anymore. When we turn our backs and walk away, when we turn in the bed to the other way, you got that side, I got the other side, or now we're creating a whole nother bedroom. That's my bedroom, that's his bedroom now. So, when we stop showing respect, that's what happened. And then stepping outside of marriage, that commitment. So if you keep those 2 keys, respect and commitment, it goes a long way, and you will stay in love. Because people always like, what a key love? You don't need it. Think about how you started. It just started out that person showing respect. Now, if he came up to you and was nasty and ugly, you would have never fell for him. He was respectful, and if you continue that goes a long way. So staying the course really helps.
Wow. You bring to mind earlier conversation we had with a previous guest, where he also, and that was a person when he was speaking about finances, that before you even do a budget, it's important to have commitment. And he also talked about respect in the sense of having those open conversations and being able to listen to one another. And he was saying there was a difference between commitment and compliance. Someone just sort of following through, right?
Yes.
And doing all the things that
right.
one should do, but really there's no commitment there. There's no commitment there. Yeah, the only other thing I could think of was, as you were speaking about that, about the trauma piece, I'm wondering how much of our trauma gets hidden because of the family secrets, the sense of not speaking about what maybe went on within our lives because of that belief that what has happened in one's household is to remain in that space, as opposed to sharing that information. And because of that belief system, then, as you said earlier, we're doing business and don't even realize that we're doing business. So
Yes, a lot of, culturally, we say what's, done in the house, done in the home stays in the home. You don't take it beyond there. And so when we're in a relationship, we suppress all those feelings, the things that happen to us, we suppress it, and we're like, why does he need to know now? Why talk about it now? But it's so important that we talk about it, because we're doing business with it regardless. No matter how suppressed it is, we're doing business. We're going into a lot of neural stuff, but the brain changes. It changes, and we're doing business with it. And like I said, trauma sits back here, but it's not staying back there. It's just, you don't see it and you think you're not using it, but you are. You're fighting with it, and when they do something, when you're triggered and, somebody steps out of line, then you start doing business with it. And you don't know that I'm responding, or I feel like I need to dominate and be more independent, of the individual. If he's gonna act like this, then definitely my survival skill kicks in, And yeah, we are survivors in a way, but that's not the way we should live. Think about it. If you were somewhere in the jungle, you're surviving, right? You said, I'm surviving. I'm in the jungle. I'm fighting. I'm surviving. Do you want a relationship like that? Do you want to have already arrived or continue to survive? Because if I'm surviving, that means there's something that I'm always trying to get through and fight. We want to get past just survival. So we have to deal with the trauma and those things that we suppress, the things that we say, don't talk about that. Mama said don't talk. Mama said don't talk about it. We need to talk about it with our partners and let them in so that they can understand us, and then we get to understand ourselves first, and then we'll understand why we do certain things and respond certain ways. Because, like I said earlier, how you're responding is what you're creating. It's coming out. You're creating, and that is now. So you're creating your future. So years down the line, when people we have certain folks that say, well, when we first got married, that first year, he was wonderful. He was great. I mean, awesome. And he said, oh, I love that girl when she was that, I loved her, that first year too, I loved her. But, it's like 5-6 years now, she all right, he'll do. Not realizing that you started creating it way back then. You started saying the first years, and we're saying the right stuff. We're trying to, I love you. I'm here for you. What? Hold up. You need something? Let me get you something from the store. You're so willing. That second, third year, you just like, look, why you ain't go to the store yourself? Why didn't you? Oh, so you're asking me to be independent of myself now? To just do, you no longer want to do these things for me? So now 5 years down the line, why should I tell you where I'm going at? You didn't even want to do anything for me. See, you started creating that a long time. Your response created the future. So how we speak to our spouse, our partner, those are ones that I saw the gleam in my eye when I saw, those are ones that we see. What we're saying creates that future. If you want that longevity, if you want to have that long, healthy marriage, then it's very important that we think about what we're saying. What are we creating? We're speaking it. We're creating it then. How we respond to them. Making sure that we're not rude. So I still say we've been married almost 35 years, and I still say thank you. Please, excuse me. Some things you just don't get rid of just because I know you real well. I need to stop saying, thank you or excuse me. Oh, I'm thankful. Now tell me, it's what you're saying, what you're creating now, because I'm wanting to make sure that he feels a sense of that I'm grateful. So he wants to continue to do it. So I'm creating my future right now in what I'm saying and how I speak. So 5, 10 years, 35 years, he's okay with still running out to get it for me, to do it.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. And with that in mind, we're right here at the end of our time together. So how would individuals, couples get in contact with you and to have the thriving, not only relationship, but to thrive in life as an individual? So if they do decide to partner, they can thrive with that other person. So how would someone wanting to find out more about your services, how would they go about doing that?
So we're a great place to start. Behavioral Health Services. Our website is gpsbhs.org. And you can reach us on our website, and we have links where you can actually register, do a referral through our link there. You can also reach us at 252-336-3646. Again, that's 252-336-3646. Deb will be glad to greet you and help you with a referral.
And I noticed earlier you said that you take all types of insurance.
Yes. We Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Metcalls, Aetna. We have several. Optum. We do Medicare. We do all the Medicaids as well.
Well, again, thank you so much, Laquita, for being here on today. You have shared a plethora of information, and I hope that our audience will really be able to take their time and dig into all the gems that you dropped on today, because you're not only sharing from a space of as a professional, but you're also sharing from a space personally, celebrating 34, almost 35 years of marriage. So thank you again for joining us. So this concludes our first season of I Plan for Marriage, the podcast, and we hope you will continue to hang out with us and look forward to our second season. So thank you very much, and I bid you adieu.